Session is being recorded. Hello, everyone. Bienvenidos and welcome to the Mastering 90. If you stayed here for the whole entire hour prior to, I definitely thank you for hanging in there. This will be recorded, so it will be sent to you if you did happen to miss it because of the time hack here. That being said, this is Mastering 90, Essential Concepts and Skills, and just give you some background to 90. 90 is a revolutionary cloud-based software, providing small to mid-sized companies with the tools needed to grow and also thrive. So 90's platform integrates data, process, and people into one comprehensive system so you can achieve those short and also those long-term goals while still accelerating your company's vision. Okay, so just a little bit about myself. I am the senior software trainer here at 90.io, and I've been with 90 since 2021. I've been using some form of BOS since 2018, though, so I'm very familiar with software. I was a client success manager at one point, but then I transitioned to the education, where I'm now the senior software trainer here. On a personal level, I love to travel for tea. I'm always drinking it. The furthest I've ever gone was to China. To be honest, I use that phrase, all the tea in China brought me there. So long story short, it's valuable to my taste buds. I am definitely pleased to introduce our guest for today on discussion, Client Success Manager, Matt Poposky. He will be going to share some of his industry knowledge and some more core questions you may have in relation to your organization. This will definitely be a two-way conversation. So if you have any relevant questions, by all means, feel free to ask. We are definitely lucky to have him here to provide insight. You know, they have a really busy schedule and he will answer all your questions, but I'll let him give a little bit more information about himself. So go ahead, Matt, introduce yourself for me, please.
Absolutely. I cannot turn my camera on, though. Are you able to give me permission for that?
It's good.
You don't want them to see my pretty face? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Let's see here. You should be able to turn it on. I'm not sure why you can't turn it on. Go for it.
It's no problem. Nah, it's just saying the host won't let me. There we go. Now we can.
There you are.
Awesome. So everybody, it's great to meet you. As Nathan said, I'm one of the client success managers here with 90.io. I spend my days in and out helping individuals one-on-one, calls of this nature, team kickoff calls, trainings via email, chat, anything I'm able to, really, just to find as much success on the 90.io platform as they possibly can. So I'm super excited to be here, help out with the topics around Scorecard here today, as well as anything else you guys would like to ask.
All right, cool. Thanks. So today we're going to focus on the critical areas of discussion. I understand you may have more questions. I'm actually going to put a poll in here too as well, so you can all use that. And just feel free to answer those questions, and then we'll get right to it. So that should be launched right now on your screen. That being said, like I said, we're lucky to have this expert on the field, Matt. Definitely thank you for coming here. If you're not familiar with any of the terms, thinking that you may use a different BOS, meaning business operating system, feel free to chime in and let me know, and I'll give a brief description on what that is for you too as well. But today we are going to focus on the KPIs, okay? So creating departmental scorecards, and KPIs, by the way, is your key performance indicators. And they're a business metric that are used to track the organization's performance. And Matt's going to give a better description of that once I pull the Mac over to him. So go ahead and let them know what's going on. But again, key areas of discussion, what's going to happen here in a nutshell is that he's going to share his screen, and we're going to ask some questions based on audience reviews, and then jump into it and show you how to actually execute those tasks. Okay, Matt.
Absolutely. Bam, and sharing. So the first question, I believe, was basically just around the area of creating a departmental scorecard. So the scorecard, as Nathan brought up, is going to track your KPIs, key performance indicators, metrics, scorecard measurables. There are many terms for these. The general breakdown is these are the numbers. These are the sand in the hourglass that you are tracking that help to show success for your seat, your position within your organization, and help to contribute to the organization's success. You'll typically be tracking these across one or multiple of a few different timeframes. Weekly is the most common, followed by monthly, quarterly, and annually. On each of these tabs, you're going to see the option to add or create a measurable. The final tab, which we'll ignore for the time being, but I do want to address it, is the trailing 4 and 13-week tab. We'll talk a bit more about that after we've addressed creating measurables and how to track them within your scorecard. So you're ready to build out your scorecard measurables. You'll want to start by going to the data page in your left-hand navigation pane. You'll then click that plus that I indicated prior. You're going to see two options: add an existing measurable or create and add a new measurable. For the time being, we're going to assume that you are creating the first measurables within your account. There are no existing measurables that you could pull in from another team. So we're going to create and add something brand new. First step is establishing ownership. Who's going to be responsible for this measurable? You can establish this either by clicking on the owner icon to the left of title, picking a seat from your organizational chart, and then an individual, or you can do this in reverse using the two choices at the bottom of the box, choosing the owner first, and then a seat within the chart. Regardless, once we've assigned ownership, the next goal is to establish a title for our measurable, a description if you would like to build this out, this description box is a full rich text editor, so you will be able to add various features such as lists, formatting for the text, and even adding external links, or if you're feeling particularly feisty, emoticons. Going down, we're going to ignore the concept of a smart measurable just for the time being. That's a bit more advanced and further down the line. We're going to want to set up what it is we're tracking. Unit of measurement. Are we simply tracking a number, a percentage, a currency? Are we tracking a simple binary yes or no? Did I do this week? And also the option to track how much time you've spent working on a certain task. Regardless of our unit, we're going to need to set a goal. Realistic, lofty, naturally that's your choice. Realistic tends to get you more successes on a week-to-week basis, but lofty can be a nice challenge as well. Let's say our weekly goal for revenue is $150,000. In that case, I'd want to change the unit to currency and make sure I'm utilizing the correct currency. If you don't see your option here, you can always utilize provide feedback in the lower left-hand corner to ask for any improvements you would like to see to the platform. After establishing our unit of measurement and our goal, we want to make sure to establish an orientation towards that goal. With revenue, we're likely wanting to exceed sales volume. But say we were tracking accounts receivable, we would want that number to be below a certain threshold. We also have options for working within or outside of a certain range. A personal example of this is how many calls I conduct a week. We want to make sure that I'm helping enough clients on a weekly basis with my time, but I'm not spending so much time in video calls that I'm unable to respond to emails, participate in internal meetings, things of that nature. Once you have established your orientation, you've set your goal, you'll be able to save this new measurable. You can see that that added to the very bottom of the page. We'll continue adding new measurables until we've created as many as we need for our organization. And then updating them is super simple. Team members can either update measurables by coming to the data page, clicking on the date range specified, and entering their updates. Or if this is a measurable that you are owner, you'll be able to actually access this on My 90. That's hard to show because I did not assign this to myself. So let me fix that. Bam.
And just to clarify things too, Matt, this is going to be a weekly metric as well. It won't trickle into the monthly or quarterly, anything like that.
Correct, yes. So currently 90 is not programmed to have the weekly aggregate to monthly and so on and so forth. It's my understanding that that is something that we are exploring and should be in production in the future. That would be another great use for that provide feedback button that I brought up earlier. If you would like to provide encouragement to our development team to focus on that as a new feature for the platform. Any questions on the basics of setting up our scorecard, establishing our baseline measurables, or how to update them within the system?
Nope, no questions so far.
Nothing so far. All righty. Once we've established measurables, we're going to be able to update them week by week, month by month, quarter by quarter, depending on which tab we're in. We're also going to be able to aggregate these measurables in one particular way if they're on the weekly scorecard. And that is by using the trailing 4 and 13-week scorecards. I alluded to these earlier, and these will actually, instead of creating new measurables, simply import all measurables from our weekly scorecard. So we'll click on that, give it a second. You can see that it's pulled everything in and updated it appropriately for a 4-week and 13-week view. Other features of the scorecard include, and I believe this one is actually on our default question list, goal forecasting and custom goals. Correct, Nathan?
Yes, we'll jump into this in a second. I was going to ask a question real quick. Who all can make updates to the scorecard? Meaning who can create scorecard measurables, who can update whose scorecard metric?
Great question. So anybody at the manager or higher access level, your terms may vary, are able to create scorecard measurables and assign them out. Anybody at managee or above is going to be able to own scorecard measurables, edit them, and update them even for a teammate. So you do want to make sure to establish guidelines around when it is and is not okay to update a teammate's scorecard measurables. As you can see, I can actually click into Jeff's scorecard here and make updates on his behalf. The only time I would likely want to do so is if he was going to be out of office or something along those lines.
Will he be notified if his scorecard metric is updated?
He will not receive notifications of those updates. No. That is something that you would need to communicate one-on-one with him, either face-to-face or via whatever your inter-office communication method happens to be.
Okay. Now, you say that the goal is scheduled for a weekly basis, meaning you had to meet a goal every single week. What if that goal changes for that previous week?
If the goal changes for the previous week, we're able to establish a custom goal. So let's say I'm going to change this goal out. For this particular week, we only hit 120,000. But let's also take into consideration, I was actually out sick 2 days that week. So naturally, the expectation on me might be a little bit different if I'm not able to gather revenue for 2 out of the 5 days I'd usually be working on it. If that's the case, you can retroactively add a custom goal. Some of you may have noticed the icon, the watermark, popping up as I hover over each individual cell. That's a custom goal adding icon. If I click on that, it will allow me to enter my custom goal. So that would actually be, I think 115 would be acceptable in that case. I can also enter whatever the reasoning is. Reasoning is not necessary for a custom goal, but it's always nice to have that justification for data analysis and posterity purposes. When I click save, noting that right now 120,000 is unacceptable for that given week, that will actually allow the 120K to be acceptable just for that week. If I hover over that, we can see what reasoning we've given for that week's custom goal.
Nice.
The
All right,
reverse.
so
Go
go
ahead.
Go ahead.
I was about to jump to goal forecasting again, but if you want a whole section for that, then I shouldn't do so.
Yeah, so one thing I want to mention too is that I'm going to paint a scenario for you. So I am on the leadership team and I'm building out the departmental team's KPIs, right? They are not invited just yet to the actual software. So how can I create KPIs for inactive users before it goes live?
Absolutely. So I mentioned during the creation process, the presumption that the user was on board. It is not actually necessary to fill out ownership for a KPI. So let's click back into this one that I've created during our call. And I can completely remove ownership if necessary. Oh, no owner. There we go. That KPI is still okay without an owner. Likewise, if I were to create something brand new, set a goal for it, you can see that just filling out my title and goal is enough to save that KPI. Once I've done so, it exists within the scorecard. If I have any existing updates, I can flesh this out before inviting my teammates. And then once I do invite teammates to the platform, then I can go into each KPI. And the same way that I applied ownership when first creating this one, I'll be able to do so now.
Nice. One thing too I want to mention as well is that in the top left in the blue bar, you may notice that leadership team is selected. So if you are building out your departmental teams, you want to make sure that you have that specific team selected prior to making your KPI. So right now he selected marketing. And so whenever he decides to create a measurable in this marketing tab, it will go directly to that team.
Correct. In addition, and I'm going to rename this just to make it stand out, this is where that add an existing measurable can come in as well. So we see that I've added gross profit to the marketing team with no owner and a goal of 150,000. I'm going to go ahead and enter a little bit of data here just to give us something to focus on whenever I bring it over to the leadership team. So say I've built out departmental scorecards, and there's a number or two from each departmental scorecard that you would like shared to the leadership team, or really any other team within the platform. It will still be owned by a single individual. It will still be updated by that individual on their team, but it can be shared for visibility across multiple teams. And that's where the other creation button within data comes in. Add an existing measurable. This will allow me to look for any measurable I'd like. Here's gross profit, the one I just created. I can click on that or any others I would like to transfer over. Click save. And once my ancient Wi-Fi router decides to cooperate with us, it'll actually add that to the bottom of the page, like so. You can see that it's imported the exact same measurable with the same goal and the updates that I already applied on the other page. Likewise, if I go back to the marketing team, this is where I operate week by week. I'm making my updates. Any updates that I put here will show up on any team to whom I have shared that measurable.
All right. So if this is, say, for example, if this measurable still moved to as well, so say, for example, you create the measurable in the leadership team, but it actually belongs on another team. Can we remove it from that leadership team and place it there?
Absolutely. So if I remove a measurable from a given scorecard, that won't actually delete it. I'm going to click on gross profit here, choose more actions, and remove measurable. We're very particular about the terminology here. It's now gone away from the leadership page. But if I go back to marketing, that measurable still exists. The only way to actually delete a measurable is to either have the owner delete it from their own My 90 page, or to make a request of 90IO to do so. So you can see now that I'm here on my own page, if I were to select that same measurable and choose more actions, removing it would actually remove it from the platform. And I get this extra pop-up asking me if I'm certain that I would like to delete it. So the owner removing it from My 90 is the only way to truly delete a measurable.
Got it.
Great question there.
Thank you very much. Anything you want to elaborate on that specific question? Anything else? Are we good to go?
I think we're good to go on that one, unless you got a rug to pull out from under me.
No rug. One thing, we had a question for question number 2. So, I have a lot of metrics all over the place, and I want to roll the KPIs onto my leadership team without overwhelming the scorecard. How do I track multiple KPIs in one centralized location?
Absolutely. So this will go back to those smart measurables that I mentioned before. Smart measurables, when created, will allow you to actually aggregate multiple measurables into a single leader measurable, granddaddy measurable, really whatever term you want to use. When creating a measurable, you will toggle on the smart measurable option. You will notice this has added an additional section between the description and our measurement options. This actually allows us to use other measurables as components. So let's say I wanted to see, it's not much in here actually that I want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and make my components. So say I had revenue, which I will own, the goal of 150K. And I had cost, which I will also own. Goal of 100K. I'm looking to grow at a rate of 30%. I'm very optimistic here, guys. These two numbers will be tracked individually, of course. What I can then do if I wanted to see, in this case, gross profit, would be to create a new measurable, name it as such, use smart measurables, and add my first measurable. I would select revenue. And then subtract my second measurable, cost. You can see here I've created a very simple mathematical component. And my goal week over week is to have a gross profit of 50K. Apply ownership, just like I would otherwise. Set my unit of measurement. Save this. And we can see that right now, these are all NAs. Once you begin establishing a pattern of making updates to these, however, then at regular intervals, these will actually update within the platform. Like so. So you can see this is actually the difference per the mathematical formula of these two entries.
And it still gives you the option to customize the goal too as well.
Correct.
Looks like it.
Yep. So I could still add a custom goal week over week if we expected greater or lesser gross profit for any given reason. Say you had a particular dip or gain in the markets and you needed to reflect that for one reason or another. Holiday seasons also tend to affect things like that for every industry.
Could you have a weekly measurable roll into a monthly measurable?
We cannot do that yet, no. That is another feature, goes right back to that weekly aggregating or ticking up into monthly. It's my understanding, and I might be eating my own shoe here, but that the smart measurables are kind of the basis for that eventually happening. But currently that is not possible.
Got it. How did you get that bar under updated HubSpot between HubSpot and Profit?
Absolutely. So that is actually a dividing line that you can add between any two measurables by going to the left of the owner. You'll have two options, a drag and drop option right here, and the option to add or remove lines by clicking on these three horizontal lines. You can use these for applying sorting methods at your discretion. So I mentioned dragging and dropping before as an option. You can do that for topic, anything of that nature. You can also sort at the very top by using the various headers on any page, but within scorecards, we can sort by owner, both ascending and descending, or by title. Once you've sorted your items by whatever method you see fit, you can use the dividing lines to help indicate breaks, be it by owner, theme, or anything you would like.
Nice. Did you explain the color indicators to the left-hand side and how to get those? Some people don't have them on their page.
I haven't yet. I know they should be on by default at this point, but for some of our clients who have been here a minute, they may not have been turned on in that most recent update. If you don't see this vertically colored line and following my explanation, you would like to use it, this and other features of the page can be edited using the data settings button in the top right-hand corner. You would simply turn on measurable status color indicator. There's a few other features here that we'll talk about as soon as I finish explaining what the measurable status color indicator is. So this vertical colored line indicates a 3-week quick health check for whatever you're looking at, with a green line indicating that for at least the last 3 entries, you have been on track. Yellow indicates that you've hit at least once within the last 3 times. And a red line will indicate that you have missed the mark or not entered for at least the last 3 spaces. With this one in particular, you can see that we had a good pattern going, and then it simply wasn't updated for the last 9 weeks. Hence the red line in this case. If you do choose to use the measurable status color indicator and at any point in time forget what each color indicates, you can simply hover over the question mark at the top of that column. I did mention before that there were additional settings you could modify on this page. With the settings wheel, we're able to add or remove the measurable status color indicator, the trailing data tab, this T4 and 13W. We can also choose whether we want an average, total column, either, neither. Hide current week. This is excellent if you run your meetings on a Monday, a Tuesday, and you really don't want to see an empty box that week. There's no way that you know what the numbers are going to be this week. We can make predictions, but we're usually going to be filling these out in post. If you hide the current week, you don't have to see those empty boxes. And the last option is the start day for the week. Not all businesses run Monday through Sunday. Some run Sunday to Saturday. Some run Tuesday to Friday. In that case, you're always going to be able to set which day of the week your measurables actually start tracking. This is also super useful for lining up with the day of the week on which you run your weekly meetings. A couple of other customizations that you can do include changing the default view. So by default, you should be seeing a rolling 13 weeks interval. But this dropdown will allow us to see quarter to date, current quarter, year to date, and current year at your discretion. We'll also be able to enter a custom date range. This is super useful once you've been on the platform for an extended duration of time, as you can enter a start date and end date with a duration of up to 365 days, pulling that data in for review at any time. We do also allow for the export of your information to either a PDF or an Excel document.
Nice.
Great question, and it led to a lot more discovery than just the one question.
Yeah, dude, that was a good question. All right. That being said, I see that you have quite a few pages at the very bottom. Can you go over the bottom section there where it says item per page?
Absolutely. So naturally, we do have the ability to view multiple different groups of items. Terminology is not my best thing today, guys. Sorry about that. I do have caffeine going. It'll help. So clicking on this filter, we can determine if we want to see 10 items per page, 25, 50, 100. And if you've chosen to see fewer items per page, then of course the page movement arrows will activate, allowing you to jump between those pages. So this really comes down to how much you want on a single page at any given time. It can also be used as another method of sorting your items.
Nice. All right, so I guess it's time to move over to the goal forecasting that you was itching to talk about earlier. So the question is, you know, my goal is constantly changing. How do I plan for the future when I don't necessarily have a set goal for specific weeks? But before you get into that, can you explain goal forecasting in a CSM nutshell?
Absolutely. So I'm really excited to talk about this because honestly, I just mastered this component myself over the last month. I've had a lot of new construction clients, other clients who have very seasonal work, which means their goals are going to be changing frequently throughout the year. And they can predict for these changes, they can forecast them, and they would like to have their goal change based on those forecastings. If you would like to set up such expectations, it's basically setting custom goals weeks or even months in advance. You'll remember I spoke before about reactive custom goals. So in the case where I was sick for a couple of days during the week, my revenue was naturally going to fall. I wasn't able to make as many sales calls, make as many pitches. That expectation fell off. That said, if there was an expected reason weeks or months in advance, seasonal labor, anything of that nature, you would actually use goal forecasting to enter those ahead of time. Now, nature of the beast with goal forecasting, I won't be able to show this in action, unfortunately, because I'm setting future expectations. But this allows me to set goals for any week that we have not yet reached within the next year for every single one of my scores. So say during the months of February through April, we have regular expectations for revenue in our company. But for May through June, for some reason, we just never have a lot of business. It's been that way for the last 15 years, and we want to expect that. We can scroll down to revenue, over to May through June. No, I'm not. Enter what our custom expectation is, maybe make it half for all of May. And when I get to May, these expectations will already be set as custom goals. Set the custom expectation for June. And you'll notice we do also have the option to add our notes about why this custom goal has been entered. Say we had a busy season. We could actually do the opposite. Maybe February through April is not just normal business. We're actually super swamped during this period of time. I could set a higher expectation instead. And all of these goals, as established, would show up on the appropriate weeks when we reach them later on in the year.
Will they be able to have access through this Will they be able to access this through their level 10 meeting or meeting?
Absolutely. So while you're running a level 10 meeting or a weekly briefing, whatever your meeting might be called, you always have full functionality of the data, rocks, to-dos, and issues pages. So if you wanted to discuss goal forecasting during the meeting, you would come to the data page, click the goal forecasting icon up here right next to the PDF, and then you could set these expectations, modify them, and view the ones that I just set. Good follow-up question. You'd actually be able to access these even if you were running a differently formatted meeting. Maybe it's a meeting that typically doesn't address your scorecards, KPIs, metrics. That's where the view tool function is going to come in handy. So let's imagine that this was a meeting format that did not address numbers at any time. But for this week in particular, we needed to address the scorecard. You're always able to access all tools of the platform during a meeting by clicking View Tool and selecting the tool you would like to access. Right now, I'm in my IDS. You can see that my IDS timer is running up in the top left-hand corner. If I click on Data, that timer is going to continue counting just as it was. You can see that I'm still in the meeting. The data timer from when I was in the original data section has remained stagnant. So I've not moved back to the meetings data section. I've actually accessed the tool on its own without accessing that section in the meeting. And as mentioned, this can be used to pull data up even in a meeting where it might not otherwise be present. And go ahead and get rid of that meeting. Any questions from the chat or based on anything we've covered so far?
Give it a second here for them to roll in.
Got
Any
it.
questions? So remember, use that Q&A box too as well. I see some people utilizing it. Ask those questions and we'll get them addressed for you. Someone's asking, can you bring in two measurables from two different teams as a smart metric?
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and put my components on different teams. I'm going to sort this by owner to make it easy to find my own measurables. So we've got the revenue and cost that I used earlier. I'm going to kill this one. This is just confusing. I'm going to actually move revenue by clicking in here. And, oh, it's not that easy on this one, is it? That's right. Okay. So let's go to the marketing team. And we're going to gross profits there, add revenue to franchise check-in, add an existing measurable, cost. We'll give my router a second to catch up with me. There we go. We've got that cost measurable. We'll save that in. So now we've got costs existing within franchise check-in. We've got my gross profit existing here within marketing. That's actually the wrong one. So let's add revenue here. That is the wrong gross profit. I've been using the exact same topic on way too many of these guys, and I apologize for that. It's just my favorite example. So now we have revenue on marketing. We have cost on franchise check-in. If I go back to leadership, I'm going to go ahead and remove both of them. If I make sure that both have been updated, on the appropriate teams, then the leadership team, gross profit, which is the smart measurable, will update accordingly as well.
Nice. Can the scorecard be restricted from users making updates?
It cannot be, no. That would be another good use for the provide feedback button. In a case like that, I would absolutely recommend clicking yes under contact for future product research, because naturally, if our product and development teams were to approach an ask like that, they would want to clarify exactly what you're looking to restrict, how you'd be looking to restrict, and how you would want that option to be turned on or off.
Got it.
The only restriction is managees cannot create measurables. But as far as editing goes, if they are a full user of the platform, they cannot be restricted from editing a scorecard on a team to which they have access.
All right, makes sense. So if someone wanted to upgrade their permissions, how would they do that?
So you can't actually upgrade your own permissions. You're going to have to ask somebody higher in your organization to do so for you. That individual could do so by going to the directory, finding you within the directory. Let's take Jane Doe here as an option, clicking on your user level and updating you accordingly.
Now, one thing I want to note, everyone, is that Jane Doe was actually an observer on the account. So remember, those are free users. So once you give them a permission to make any kind of updates to accountabilities, you'll be paying for that user once you send out that invitation.
Absolutely. Lorraine being another example, as an owner within this account, I'm able to affect the user level of everybody. So I could update her access level as needed using the directory.
Yeah, so all the paid seats are owner, admin, manager, and managee.
Managee, team member. I know the term varies from BOS to BOS. Yeah.
Right.
You've got your managees and managers. Those individuals are locked to the team or teams to which you add them. And we've already addressed one of the strengths a manager has over a managee. Managers can actually build these scorecards, whereas managees can only edit them. Managers are also capable of editing the traction page for their team within your vision, your SVEP, your vision traction organizer, whatever it may be for your organization. They can edit the responsibilities, org charts, accountability chart, and they can edit the process tool. Those three purposes, along with creating scorecard measurables, are not permitted for your managees. Your admins and owners will have all of these privileges for every single team across the account, except those which may be marked as private. It's a topic for another time, I think. Owners are also able to cancel or delete the account at any time. Admins are not allowed to do that.
All right, awesome. Now, you said you can hide, you can hide certain aspects of the scorecard?
Absolutely.
So for example, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's done using the data settings wheel. I've actually already done so here on the call. I took away our average and our total columns. I'm going to go ahead and give those back. And instead, I'm going to take away the trailing 4 and 13 week tab, as well as the measurable status color indicator, which is, again, this vertically aligned colored line right here.
Will this apply to every scorecard in the organization?
Yes, any changes that you make to the data settings wheel will affect every scorecard within the organization.
Even the start date?
Even the start date. So that's something you would typically want to set at the leadership level and have those expectations that other teams aren't modifying them with any kind of regularity, because naturally that can confuse as far as what features are or are not available on various teams.
Got it.
That should be a nice thing to change.
All right, do we have any more questions for Matt? All right, Matt, so how do they get in touch with you? What do they need to talk to you about if they ever want to meet with you personally?
If you ever want to meet with me personally, you would reach out to me at matt@90.io. 90 is spelled out. That is my professional email address here within 90.io. If you'd like generalized support, we do offer daily webinars, which I believe Nathen runs all of those. We also offer daily office hours. That's an opportunity to jump in, get assistance with a quick question, with a presentation and everything, and then jump out at your discretion. Both of these can be signed up for through the 90IO website. And we do have chat support available. These guys are available 7 days a week. And on Monday through Friday, they're actually available 24 hours a day. So do feel free to reach out to them for anything you feel can be resolved using chat support level assistance. They are internal employees. They know 90 like the back of their hands.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? Let me see here. Doesn't look like anything's coming in right now. I'm gonna let you stop you from sharing your screen. I'm gonna leave a QR here with a questionnaire for everybody. So give me a quick second here to load that up. Bam. So you can use this to answer a few questions that I have listed there. I did ask questions in a poll earlier today too as well. I will be sending out an email with all the information associated with our contact information for setting an appointment with a CSM to get a better understanding with you and your team with a kickoff call. It will also have a slew of information for the webinars that are being hosted, along with chat support and other goodies for you all to utilize. This will be recorded, so this will be sent out to as well. But if you ever have any questions, feel free to email us or use the chat button as the best means of communication to talk with one of us from the support staff. Other than that, thank you, Matt. Anything to add before we let everyone go?
Just make sure to utilize the resources available to you. We are constantly expanding our support, attempting to make sure we have enough individuals and resources available to make you as comfortable and successful on our platform as you can possibly be. So everything I mentioned, everything that Nathen's going to be sharing with each and every one of you, hold on to them, share them amongst your team. And when you need our assistance, we're always happy to help.
Yep. One more thing before I go, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that with that chat bubble too at the bottom right-hand corner, there is the opportunity to look at video tutorials and also step-by-step direction on how to execute tasks. In case you don't have time to make that appointment, you can watch everything on demand or even read on demand too as well. All right. Other than that, thank you, Matt. Definitely appreciate your help there. Everyone have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you all later.